All right, and we are live. Welcome to the weekly BrainDrive Dev Call Update live stream. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to update on the BrainDrive project. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm Dave Jones, and I handle the technical side of the operations here at BrainDrive.
Great. So BrainDrive is a local self-hosted MIT licensed AI system. This is the front end for that system. As you can see here, everything that you're seeing on the screen right now is running locally on my computer here. If we weren't doing a live stream, I could turn this off and all of the locally running models that I have here, all of the Olama models, which is what we use to run our local models, you can run completely privately and securely right on your own computer. You don't even need an internet connection, so you don't even have to worry about any data leakage or anything like that. But it doesn't stop there. If you want state-of-the-art models or if you have a less powerful computer, we also offer API-based models through OpenRouter where you can connect to any of the state-of-the-art models from providers like OpenAI and Anthropic, the same models you would use in ChatGPT and Claude, but used right here on your own AI system running locally on your own computer. And it doesn't stop there. Dave has constructed this so it is a modular plugin based architecture so that you can build whatever you want on top of the BrainDrive core architecture. So you have a locally running or self-hosted AI system where you can chat with both local and API-based AI models right out of the box, and then you can build and deploy plugins on top of this. And there's no lock-in at any point in this architecture. You build these plugins, you deploy them on your own GitHub, and then you can install them with one click right here in the upper right-hand corner from any GitHub or any zip file. You can also trade plugins, give plugins away for free, charge for plugins, whatever you want to do. It's your AIs, your rules, and you're not limited to just chat interfaces. You can even go so far as building AI powered games, or really, as we like to say here at BrainDrive, the only limit is your imagination. And we have a full doc site at docs.braindrive.ai where you can get started with using your BrainDrive right here, the owner's manual, or building plugins if you're ready to go on that. Give these to if you're a plugin developer or you're a vibe coder, give this to your favorite AI coding assistant and you'll be off to the races building plugins on top of BrainDrive. And when you're ready to connect with other BrainDrive owners, because here at BrainDrive, you are not a user, you're an owner, hop over to the BrainDrive community at community.brainDrive.ai for support and to connect with both Dave and I, as well as other people leveraging their own AI system and building the future of user-owned AI together with BrainDrive. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dave to give us the development update from last week.
Well, let's start with, I'll call it, in my mind, I call it the elephant in the room, OpenClaw. Well, it is at the end of the day. It caused, I guess, enough articles and content to be written where you can't go anywhere on the internet. It just doesn't matter. There's got to be some content, some article, some person saying whether good, bad, indifferent, whatever their opinion is on the entire viral movement. So we had our own here as well. We seen it, and Dave handles strategy, and that's his thing. And he was, of course, scratching his head, going, where did we miss that one?" Me from a coding perspective, because it was like I know how the interfaces are important for a lot of people, and they went without one for the most part. So we did have some heavy talks on that. Dave, good thing, bad thing. He was kind of out of MIA, dealing with
I
family
was
stuff.
able to listen to a lot of
Yeah.
this on podcasts and YouTubes and stuff because I was off the computer for a few days.
Yeah, so sometimes everything happens for a reason, because at the end of his getting the family stuff rectified, and we were able to sit down and talk and hammer out a strategy of what we wanted to see in the future. And from there, we handle things a little differently. Number one, it's kind of funny. We're always in the same sheet, so that didn't matter, as far as the end, let's address strategy. Dave was already playing with what we call the librarian and the library. So for as far as for focusing us, we just kind of said, "Yep, we're heading that direction anyways. Let's do that."
Yeah, and let
Uh,
me just jump in here for a
yeah,
second on a couple things from just a big picture strategy standpoint. The first thing I would say is, OpenClaw is in the same space as we are, but if this was a war that's being fought for, the battle between user-owned AI and closed big tech centralized AI, OpenClaw is 100% on the same side of the war as we are, right? It,
I guess for me, when I thought about that, they're really not and I only realized it when I was doing the library and MCP server and what it took, because for me, the importance was we wanted to be local. And that meant your model too. So, and then rather than I could got away with using Claude or Codex or one of the OpenAI
well, I
models.
mean, I think what you may be saying though, Dave, is they may not be fighting the battle the way that we believe it should be fought, because they rely on, from an ownership standpoint, big tech interfaces and primarily
Hmm.
APIs from the big tech providers as their primary, it works basically with that, and it's hard
Yeah.
to get it working locally.
Yep.
But the fact that this was released as an open source
Yep.
project, you know what I mean? And there's no reason that you can't, it may be hard, and I'm sure we're going to talk about,
Yep.
why, but for me, I guess the main point here is less like where do they sit, and it's
Yeah.
more like we're here to build the future of user-owned AI, and we wouldn't view this as like open AI versus Anthropic, you know what I
No.
mean? Really,
Yeah.
it's like the more that, it's been very positive from a brain drive centric standpoint in terms of getting people in this mindset of, oh, I can run this on my own
Yep.
hardware and I don't have to rely on these. Now, we may say you do have to rely on it, and there's all these points of reliance that are
Yeah.
problems, and that's why. But like we even talked about, hey, if this really is what people are saying it is, and you can run everything
Yep.
locally and all that, then we should just like, because it's so popular, like let's go build on top of that. We don't have
Yep.
to build everything,
Yep.
right? But we looked at it and it's like, okay, philosophically, this is aligned, but
Yep.
like technically, there's issues here that make us nervous and want us, and we feel like we address those issues,
Yep.
right? And so I would say, you know, if this was, World War II, the UK might not be fighting the war like we think it should be fought, and we think that that's a losing,
Yep.
strategy. But like we're on the same, we're not battling each other really. You know
No,
what I
and
mean?
I was getting more to the selected technologies because like doing the MCP server, one of the things I wanted to try and strive to was get a local model to handle all my function calling so that the MCP server would never have to reach out, touch anything, and you can hammer it all you want then. Your library should be able to not just be local, but even run as free as humanly possible.
Right.
Because as like the OpenClaw, a lot of learning is capable here. It's like not just from a security and the big picture that everybody's hammering, but the small picture of people waking up with token bills that they did not foresee possible and things of that nature. So when I look at the library and how we want to use it or how other people can use it, yeah, for me, if I can get this to run as minimal as possible, the footprint both on your PC and the bill that you would incur to do this, that's the, and it's always been since we talked number one of how much is it going to cost to run this thing.
Yeah, and I think another, to put that in, say the same thing in different words, because I originally I was like, well, no one cares about local models, and I
Eh,
think what you're saying is they will, you know what I
When
mean? And yeah, and same thing with interface. It's like right now, people aren't worried about the fact that they don't own and control these interfaces, but they will,
yeah,
and just so I think it's positive that people have like so much and focus so much on the fact that you can buy a computer and run this
yep,
thing, but there's still a lots of points of centralization and closed source involvement in this that matter from both a philosophical standpoint when we think about
yep,
building a superior user-owned AI system, and also like you're talking about, even if you care nothing about owning your own AI system, once you start adding agentic into the fold, you start talking about API bills that are going to go through the roof. And so the ability to actually run local models becomes a huge deal, not just from an ownership and control standpoint, but from a cost
yep,
standpoint. And that's a huge advantage for BrainDrive because Dave has always been, whatever we're doing, it's got to be local first, and then we can add in the
It's always to
API-based
add
stuff.
that the state of the art model that can come second,
And
and it's only going to
it's
get
very
better.
difficult to go backwards,
Yep.
right? It's very difficult to start with the state of the art and go backwards to local, but it's very easy if you can get it working locally, because that's the hard part
Yep.
to go forward. If it works locally and you throw a state of the art cloud-based model in there, it's going to work, you
Yep.
know. But if it doesn't, if it works with the state of the art, the reverse is certainly not true.
Yeah, that's why
So I
I
think,
good.
when we think about, owning your own AI system, if you don't own the interface, first off, like that is a major
Yep.
point of like that's your interaction point with your AI system. And so if you don't own that interface, like that's trouble just brewing and waiting to happen,
Yep.
right? So that's number one. And we see these big tech platforms constantly. It's open until it's disadvantaged to them for it to be open, and then it closes off, right?
And they can
Um,
make that decision anytime. Don't think because it's open
yeah,
today. If they can wake up tomorrow and go, oh, let's go and close this off, you're like, oh, but I've
right.
already bought in.
Right. The most important thing is the memory system,
Yep.
right? That you own and control the context engine that drives your AI system. But the more you're leaking these other areas of the system, the easier it is to lose control of that memory and also to have all sorts of problems from a security standpoint. So, the interface, we
Yep.
have the memory, it's running locally. The next thing is the local models,
Yep.
right? That's a huge deal. Where does it live? And this is what OpenClaw got right in terms of everybody buying these mini PCs and Mac Minis and all that. People really get like, hey, this thing needs to live somewhere, and I need to own the place where it lives.
Yep.
They're going to start to understand. I think they already are starting to understand how important the other components of this
Yep.
are as well. But those are the four main components. And then you got to look at the connections and not only owning the connections, but how do you securely connect out to these external systems and let those external systems connect into your system in a secure way. And this is where, on the one hand, it's great that you have the freedom to do whatever you want with OpenClaw, and OpenClaw has the freedom to do whatever it wants. That's very powerful. We want that for
Yep.
the user-owned AI community as well, but we're very concerned about security and doing that in a way that's sustainable, because we have our pillars, ownership, freedom, empowerment, and sustainability. And freedom, yeah, do whatever you want, but empowerment and like helping people really flourish with this system, and then sustainability, making sure that it's secure for people to use, those are at tension with one another. And so we want to build a little bit slower towards that. And this is again just like the local versus cloud thing. It's a lot easier to build from a secure foundation than it is to add security
Afterwards. Yep.
retroactively. So we've been thinking about security the whole time. But again, I just want to make sure, because to me, OpenClaw is definitely on the same side of the war as we're on. They may be fighting the battle in a way that we believe is going to be a losing way to fight it, but they still are on our side.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, no, because there are some great things that came out about this. They gave notice, they gave attention. I mean, right now you cannot read anywhere on the internet without at least hitting the words that a locally owned system,
Right.
you know,
All right.
and
We are live.
oh,
All right.
there
I
we go.
always
It's
flip
okay.
over to look at the to look at the chat. I don't know why the audio only comes on then, but anyway, continue, please.
Okay. Um, they
You
gave
can't go
notice.
anywhere on the internet,
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
saying. Yep.
exactly. And so that's good for us because at some point, as with any system, you're going to encounter things that you don't like. And that's why, there's more than one system for everything.
Correct.
And so I have no problem with OpenClaw. They're going to do what I want them to do. They're going to release a system that, because their version of events is, hey, anything. We used to call this the Wild Wild West when we were originally thinking about BrainDrive, and if there were no guardrails, there was no protection, we called that the Wild Wild West. You do whatever you want. And we veered a little bit away from that. You can have it, you can run your system, it's the code's exposed, you can do whatever you want, much like OpenClaw. But from a practical standpoint, we want you to be able to install BrainDrive with at least some confidence that as soon as you put in your API key, something's not taking off and
Yeah, and I
automatically,
would say we're being very opinionated about the defaults that we're offering, but
yeah,
we're also it's an open source system, so
yep.
you want the Wild West, go have fun.
E- Exactly. And more to the point where it's like, because I was going to make turn this little podcast into an educational thing, because in my research of doing the MCP server, I read probably 50 articles on doing it locally, and everybody ran into almost the same problem, the model. What model to use for this to get the what I call 100%, because I need it so that if I say open the project XYZ, it shouldn't sit there dumb for a moment going, oh, what project am I opening up? I want 100%. So that was finding the model that would do what I want 100% without relying on a soda model. And that's what it came down to. And I chose Granite 4, but where I veered off is everybody who tried Granite 4 was also using a 4-bit quant model. I tried the 4, and 4 would give me what I would call 9 out of 10. I would end up with 9 of the test functionalities that I had banging because it was their script that I would run. And at the end, 9 out of 10 every time. It would be like, great, great, great. Oh, I couldn't quite do it. It took 6 or 7 tries for it to finally go, oh, okay, that's what you wanted me to do. Or something of that nature where it was like, I had relied on code to as a backup, which would almost always like list how many projects do I have and what are they, for it should be able to be 100%. And it was like, I don't know. So the code would catch up. And I can't rely on that either. So for me, I wanted the AI to really do what it's supposed to do, be there, navigate the entire structure at 100% level. And that's when I went from a 4-bit quant to an 8-bit quant, and I sacrificed just a little space, a little speed, but every time now it's 100%. It runs like it should,
Oh, amazing.
and expect, yeah, exactly. It's like just that. So this is my little lesson to almost, if anybody watches this, is don't just do the generic, which we all do with local models. Get the 4-bit, because that's that little sweet spot when you're talking about if results are 100% what you're going for. Change the quant a little bit. Go high. Go. I could have went for a
And
6. I didn't try it. I went for 8.
what is I've never heard of the Granite model. What is that model?
The IBM, when they came out with Dockling, which we know because we use it for our own
Yes.
RAG, they also came out with a series of models for doing this kind of thing. And
IBM is like kind of flying under the radar a little bit.
exactly, yeah, they have a little. The CEO they have there her own mission of AI, and it's not this big dog and pony show. I want to be the best in the world. They're releasing solid tools to basically business or enterprise orientated tools where the mission is what's most important, getting the results, not the little not this time type stuff like that. It's more of a, you wanted to do XYZ and you want to depend upon it. IBM's really kind of shoring these tools up that are out there.
So are we running Granite as the main model that you're interacting with as well, or is it just doing
No,
one
there's not
piece
in.
of it?
It's all it's handling is we'll call it navigation. The orchestration model is Granite 4. So if you type in, basically you want to do something with your library, and I want to, let's say, uh, acquaint yourself with project XYZ. And so if you type in that, this model is the one that goes, okay, which tool do you want me to call? Okay, so it figures out, okay, you want to first of all find this project. So it pulls up the list of projects, finds it from that list. Okay, I have it. And since you said acquaint, now I want to read the stuff that's in there, the little agent file that's in there, and know what this file is about. So I can tell you, okay, I'm ready to go. What would you like to do with this? And so rather than rely on code going through, let's list, let's hope you typed it correctly, and that kind of stuff, it instead says the model goes, I figured out what you meant. So we're building our own little intent engine basically, and then it pulls it up and it can just tell you, hey, I'm ready.
Okay, so let's say I'm using Quinn, 4 billion parameter model, Quinn's
Yep.
latest model, and I'm chatting with that model,
Yep.
right? And then I say, check out my fitness page and let me know like how I did last week,
Yep.
right? And your fitness folder is going to have all of your food diary in it and all, your workouts and all that type of stuff. So I'm going to be talking to Quinn for that model, and then it's going to talk to Granite.
What'll happen? Nope, the exact opposite. It'll work like a RAG, where a RAG, you talk to the RAG first, it gathers any information it has relative to the subject, and then pulls that in and goes to Quinn to give you the final results, it'll work kind of similar because it'll go to the library first and it'll go, hey, based on this prompt, do I have anything to do? And if you're just talking with Quinn 4 and you're saying, hey, I was, thinking about doing XYZ or whatever you typed in first, and it had nothing to do with the library, so it'll pass it on. It'll just go, okay, we have nothing here. Continue to Quinn, and you have a nice day with your response. It's when you all of a sudden you chime it in, it says, hey, let's open up a project. So, or like you said,
But you're going to be talking, right? You're going to have Quinn selected in the
yep,
in chat
still,
page, right?
but the library knows whenever it's checked, just like our RAG system. We have a llama, I believe 3B to determine the
Yeah,
context and stuff like
I
that.
think that's what I said, right?
Oh,
You're talking, there's a model that you talk with
yep,
that's handling the conversation.
yep,
And then there's a model, which is the Granite model, that's handling the communication with the
yep.
library and deciding what
True. Okay.
context
Yes.
to pull in. That's
Yep.
what we're
I
talking
got
about,
buried
right?
in details on that one.
That's all right. This is cool. I know. I'm glad you found a model. I mean, that's the most important
Yeah, because
thing,
that
right?
I think I got up to like 9 models and was like I had zero. I was like stuck at 9 and 10. It was
Yeah, and I
like,
mean this is another, place where again, I think we, us putting the work in to choose the right defaults is like a
yep,
big deal. We're not locking you into those
yep,
defaults because we didn't even make that model. It's available to
yep,
everybody, open source. But I think a lot of the times, like people will come out with a system and they'll be like, "Hey, this will do, RAG or whatever," and it's like, well, like, there's a million different models and combinations of things that I could use for this.
yep.
Like, give me
What
the,
did you try that was
yeah,
tried and true work
yeah,
for you
exactly.
every time? And that's
And
what
also
basically,
hopefully that'll run on, I don't think I think with, once you start getting into these agentic capabilities, doing this on any laptop, is going to be a non-starter. But, if this can happen on a computer slash laptop that, is $1,000,
hmm.
in that sort of range, I think is what we should be shooting for.
Yep,
A modern desktop or laptop, that's not a low end
yep,
machine, but also not the top of the top. Actually, that's why people like the Mac Mini, right? It
yeah.
kind of fits that.
And the 4 granite or the Granite 4 model is very small. It's only like 2 gigs in comparison to
Do you
size.
know how many parameters it is by chance?
Not off the top, but based on the size, it's probably sitting somewhere around 4B or something of that nature.
Okay.
It's a smaller model it's running, might even be a 3B model. But I
Okay.
think for some reason, I think it's 4 off the top of my head.
Okay. But that should run, with a reasonably sized language model that you're using for your main chat and that
Yep.
model, you should be able to run that on a Mac Mini and do pretty good,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. I know it runs on the Minus Forum. Not even the AI version, our previous versions. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I know
The
what you're
seven.
talking
Yeah,
about.
you do. I was trying to think of the number but I think it was the
Yeah.
790.
And
Um,
that was a $700
yeah,
desktop
seven
Mini
hundred
PC.
dollars. You could be in and out, and I can tell you right now, it runs the 8Bs. It runs 4Bs even faster, and it have no problem chewing this up.
Okay, awesome. So, just to sort of back up a little bit in big picture standpoint, I think we believe that the most important component of your user-owned AI system is the memory.
Yep,
So this is not only what is being stored, but how it's being stored and how it's being retrieved, right? So just like your physical brain, if you just have a bunch of data in there, like it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to do anything with it, right? So you
yep,
need a way to organize that information, decide what's important, what's not important. What do you need to remember forever? What do you need to forget? How do you update information, et cetera, et cetera? And then how do you retrieve the right information at the right time that is, aware of the conversation that's happening? So
yep,
we like to equate this to if you had a 24/7, 365 amazing librarian that was always on and it was always watching your chats and pulling out the context that matters and bringing in the context that matters, etc. That would be amazing, right?
yep,
And you'd want that. You'd want to own and control that
yeah,
library. That
exactly. Yeah,
librarian is going to know everything about you, right?
you don't want it
So,
floating on the web somewhere.
yeah, exactly. And it's going to be working with all your most private data and those types of things. And we've been actually working on this in the background almost the whole time,
Yep,
that we've been focused on this. And I think what's become clear in the last couple of months, maybe before that for other people, but for me, is just having a file system that has a few different files in it and a structured way of working with that file
Mhm.
system might not get you all the way there, but it gets you a hell of a lot further than I think anyone thought, especially now that you have the agentic capabilities to organize and manage that file system. And the great thing about that is file systems have been around since the dawn
Yeah.
of the computer. And so this is not something new like RAG and knowledge graphs and all that type of stuff that people are working on just with AI. Like this is how you organize information anyway. It's just now you have this all-knowing AI that can crawl that information and
Yep.
help you organize it instead of having to do it all manually. And that unlocks a whole world of opportunity. Now, we don't think it's going to end there, but because you can get so far, I really do think that's going to be the foundation of the memory system is the structured file system.
Mhm.
And then you're going to add all these different components like RAG and all those types of things around it, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to start. And the beautiful thing about this is we think just that because I've been using this file system with agentic agents for a while now, and it is supercharged
Yep.
my workflow and getting that right context to the AI at the right time is just what it's all about. It's what unlocks that whole team of people working for you and automating work for you, the AI being the people at this point. Just like if you brought on a big team of people that knew nothing about you, they would suck. Same thing with the AI. And so getting that context to the AI at the right time is very, very powerful. So it's one use case that unlocks all the other use
Yeah, because
cases.
once you have your library built, then it's free to expand upon. Because then as you add more people, more agents, and like that, and you've already been building this, it's all you're doing is queuing it in. You're like, hey, okay, I want you to work with this project. You're going to do X, Y, Z. And it already has that foundational knowledge of you and what you want to accomplish with this right there. And it's just, hey, this is the foundation right here.
So
And we
we're
already
all
have,
in. The good news is we had all the other foundational pieces. We
yep.
like just finished them of BrainDrive, and now we need this one more piece, and this unlocks everything. So that's why Dave has really been, burning the candle at both ends to get this live for us.
And then we can see RAG come into the picture. We already have that done. So it's like as soon as the library, then we'll figure out where that queues in. And you will have thinking models, we'll have library to get the immediate context of what's going on. And then of course you want to have knowledge
And
for
it
certain
sounds like you're
topics.
pretty confident that on a a decent laptop slash desktop
Yep.
modern, that you're going to be able to run this
That
completely
is my
locally.
goal. That's
Okay.
what I strive for is always because that's why I keep them in this form hooked up, ready to go. Because if it can run there at a $700,
Yep.
that is, I think to me, that is the ideal land right there. Not whether a more expensive PC or like that. It's like if that $700, most people, when you think about AI, and if you could be in and out right there
And if it
at the
runs on that, it'll run on the Mac Mini or no?
um, now that I do only because Mac Mini, I do not know how well it does on models per se, because
Okay.
the Mac Mini was not ever created as an AI PC. That's why everybody OpenClaw, they go with the Mac Mini. It's a $500 bill. You're in and out, and they're using Anthropic for tokens.
Right.
So you don't have to run a model there. Just like my type of self-hosting people, they go one of two ways. Either they're putting on a Raspberry Pi or they're getting some thin client from an enterprise.
Right. Another way to say that is like, why even spend $500 if you're not running the model locally?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have no control over what's going, but they're doing it because of the security restraints they need to impose. You don't want this running on your main PC where your bank account's
Right.
at. You
Right.
know, they're like, okay, I'm going to put you in a shoebox to run because I know you're not safe. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, and hey, I have my own, I have like 6 Raspberry Pis for this very reason. If I want to run something that I'm unsure about, I can throw it on there and go, okay, no matter what you do, I know you're not going to destroy me.
Right. Right.
Those kind of
Cool.
things. But then the next thing for me, going off the library, is of course chatbots. That that's the big thing now, thanks to OpenClaw. I mean, it was before. Yeah, that no, that name's been or that term's been floating around, but I believe OpenClaw put that on crack. It's all of a sudden it's like running a chatbot. They didn't worry about the interface because, as we discussed, was the interface important? We still believe so. But for them, they said, hey, we're just going to use everybody else's interface and we're not going to develop their own. So this is where I will share my screen really quick, and we will go to, oh, there we go. Can you see it all? I do not know how this thing sets up.
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Two split
Yep,
screen
two
with,
split
yep,
screens. There you
yep.
go. What I did is I wanted to see what BrainDrive would do as a chatbot. And I always have my own little rules that I play with. I did not want to touch the core when I was developing it, because I always like to test out what a user can do without being me. So if they were just like, hey, I'm going to write my own plugin, what could you accomplish? So I ended up coming up with a little Discord plugin. This could be a whatever you want it to be. It could be a setting or it could be a page. I chose page right now. And all you'd have to really do is you put in a little, this is a bot token. If you're doing Discord, you know what that is. The user generated stuff I have for me just to make sure it's working in the background. But one of the key things on personality is you can add a rag collection to this. You can add a persona to this so that you can guide its behavior. Um, we have settings so like it can remember previous conversations, how long you want them to expire, so that if a person left for 24 hours, you can determine, hey, I'm going to forget our previous conversation so that you can have a new one, but you have a choice right there. And those kind of things. And it was just me playing. And the idea is that let's say you run a business, you run a game, you want to have your own AI chatbot in your room with all your knowledge that you want, whatever your focus of your room is, you would simply be able to load up the rag on the, here we go. Oh, that's chat. Let's hope I have rag on this. I don't even, oh, I do. I have to. I forgot I was already playing with it. So you go to manage documents, you would load up whatever information you wanted to be in your bot so that it would be available. Name it whatever you desire. I have, of course, the white paper is my little static that I jump off to. Come back here. This would have the same list. If I had 5 or 10, it would have
Oh,
their
wow.
it would already have them listed. If I don't want rag involved, of course, I select no. This is my little persona I put in here for Discord. One of the things that you'll see in the conversation at the end of some, he'll say, go BrainDrive. That's because I told him to do that. But I also had the prompt so that when it messaged you, unlike a chat window, which if I said like in this one was BrainDrive, it would give a long answer. But Discord's not meant for long answers. So I had it kind of always do short, precise in what it's doing. And I can just hit here, simply do connect. It will do its checking, and that was determining, oh, it did not like something I have going on. For some reason, it's not registered as running, but I am seeing him running here. And so let's make sure he's still running. Oh, and as you can see, I was already testing this, but it's not
Brain
behaving.
drive claw.
Yeah, that was my bot when I created a bot and stuff like that. And let's say good morning again, just to make sure. Let me drop this to see, because I like to see. Yep, it's running. But it simply goes through. Um, Not a morning person, has its own little personality, and of course, my little Go BrainDrive. See, so now it verified A, it's talking to the AI I wanted to talk to. It is actually reading the persona that I wanted to read. And so now if I want to check to see if it's actually doing all of what I want to do, and like we were talking before, it reaches out to the RAG system first. It determines whether I have knowledge or some chunks to utilize in the conversation context. And then it turns around and handles that to, I believe I'm using just a llama B, and then it gives you the response.
Cool. So this is talking to your brain drive from Discord, which
Yep.
is running. Where is the Discord running versus the
Discord has
brain
their own
drive?
servers.
So how is Discord talking to your brain drive? Because brain drive's running locally, right?
Yes, exactly. See, this is what we tried to have this conversation before, and obviously it didn't go anywhere. In Discord, as a developer, I create a what's called a application token, and that manages the secure
Oh, I
connection.
remember this now. So
Yep.
basically, Your brain drive does have to be the computer your brain drive is running on has to be online,
Yes.
right? So you
Yep.
can't do this completely privately, but
Correct.
you can if your computer is online,
Yep.
you can now access your brain drive with this plugin from Discord or any as we build out more
Yep.
plugins, any application that has this. And basically, we're leveraging the security of Discord, which people do this all the time
Yep.
with Discord to run all these different bots and stuff to connect to your brain drive. So it's completely secure, basically,
Yeah,
right?
so like if we had a BrainDrive room or channel or whatever, just any game developer, you could be like Rucode's on here, Olama's on here. They have tons of, if you wanted to have your documentation handled by a RAG and an AI serving it up to all the users, you could do this.
Right.
And cost effectively because I'm using all the models involved here are locally.
That's awesome. Super cool. So basically, we're not preventing you from connecting like this is where the freedom is,
Yep.
right? It's like we think having owning your own interface is really important, but that doesn't mean locking you out from the
Yep.
ability to use other interfaces if you want to.
Exactly. And I made no changes to the core. I just said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I believe for me, this took me 10 hours to include cooking dinner and odds and ends and like that. But it was
Right.
really wasn't no heavy lift.
Cool. This is awesome.
So if we ever do Discord, we know we can do it. If we do whatever we do, it's like I am confident BrainDrive can handle the chatbot situation for us. Where if people want information, we can serve it up. And
Super.
that's all. That was my demonstration. It wasn't for us because right now we're only two people. So we really, in our case, it'd be perfect. We don't have to give the answer. We have a chatbot.
Right. That's awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
So that is my little demo for today as far as what we did last week. And then we get in, of course, to what we're going to do next week.
Okay.
uh,
And
let's see. I have some provider tweaks that need to be handled. I believe BrainDrive does not handle continued effectively. I've been wanting to redo this, and since I have to handle tool registry anyways, I've been waiting for some other reason for me to be in the provider code to do it, because I have to do the tool registry so that when an MCP server is available and you want to use it, it can give the specific right model the tools that it wants, its little toolbox to say, hey, you have these tools available. And in addition, I want to do for every model that if when the model is streaming the information back from a llama or open router or whichever one, and it reaches the end of the max tokens you have, but it's not reached the end of the response. It will automatically continue on as if next or if continued was pressed and give you the full long response. And so that was one of the things that I wanted because it bothers me every time I'm doing code in BrainDrive and I'm using it because I like to use BrainDrive. I learn more about what it can and can't do. I want the full continued response to be in one single response for me.
is this would this also be an opportunity to address and make sure that anytime you're waiting for anything, there is some sort of indicator for that? Like I know we do have that, but it does still seem like, especially when we put RAG in and stuff, that sometimes it
Yeah, I
just
think
sits
that's
there.
going to be more in when I get into the library cooking that into the actual chat plugin, that's where I'm going to start have a little dancing monkey or whatever, something in there to say, "Hey, I'm working. I'm not stuck." Or
Right.
and of course some little tidbits. There could be, hey, every time you boot up BrainDrive, I might have it, 10 things you didn't know about BrainDrive.
Right.
Boom. So that it has a little list to feed on and
Okay.
just to make it
All right. So if
entertaining.
I'm understanding correctly, tool calling and
Yep.
adding that in for the MCP stuff that you've been working on is like the number one priority. Yes.
No, yes, and then once they're done, I get into the BrainDrive chat plugin because, like I said, I'll be right there for library, and that's basically just putting the glue together because the MCP per server is already running now. I will have tool calling enabled, and so now it's time to go to the chat plugin to so when I say, "Hey, I open up, make yourself acquainted for project XYZ." It can go, hey, I've opened up the fitness project. First glance, you did great last week. What would you like to know? And more.
Perfect. Okay, um, so you've already done the MCP server, decided to go with an MCP
Yep,
server, fast MCP,
yep,
right? That adds the tool calling
Yep.
in. Is that part done, or is there still
Done.
more
No, no,
work
that
to
is
do?
all done. It has been tested. It works with
Awesome.
Granite. And all the only thing left to do is when I do the install for the plugin, which will be the chatbot plugin for the library, whichever one, however we go to that, whatever the install mechanic needs to be and where that happens.
Okay,
Um,
so tool calling
done.
done, and also on top of the tool calling, which is a thing, choosing the model that we
Yep.
want to use as a default, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because
Which
when
is
we do
very
other
important.
MCP servers in the future now, we have our model figured that the few hours to figure that one out, done. That's just
Big
the one.
deal.
Yep.
Okay, and it's an open source model,
Yep,
etc.
Granite 4, so we'll run with it. And the only thing different is we might fine tune it eventually to do something very specific, but out of the box, it worked fabulous.
Amazing. All right. And so now it's like, okay, we need to hook all that up to BrainDrive,
Yep.
right? Okay, and that's really what you're talking about for this week is
Yep,
like,
for
how do
this
we
week
hook that up?
is hooking it up to both the provider, so the provider knows what to do with it with tool calling directly because it has that toolbox, and then the chat bot so that when you say just like RAG, when you say hey XYZ and it goes, let me see if I have any chunks, this will go, let me see if we have a project or is this a tool that I need to be calling? And when
Right.
it says yes, it does it. If it says no, we head on back to the provider with the AI model and says, hey, this was for you.
Okay. And that needs to be reasonably quick on a
Yep.
local computer,
Yep. That's the next one. That's
which
why,
is going to
and
be
plus that's
tough.
why it's like we do need that little, I'll call it the running man or whatever it's going to be, because like especially when you get into RAG, you get into the library, if you wanted to turn all the lights on, it's going to take a little longer, of course, because you have all the lights on. But at the same time, you need to know, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm doing this. Okay, I'm done with this. Now we're doing this. And so that it's like if you wish to do everything, you understand there'll be some speed, you a second here and a second here before you next thing you know, you're at 5 seconds. But that's the price of business right there.
Okay. And then we may push this off to the main thing is just getting this working on BrainDrive as it exists currently.
Yep.
Like that's job number one,
Yep.
right? Then job number two is okay, we're hoping that this is so useful that people are going to want it on the go and be
Yep.
able to just take a note, etc., and have it put into their library or ask a question and get some advice on the go.
Yep.
And the great thing about this is BrainDrive is browser based, and we can start with just a responsive version of the web. That's not the end state,
Yep.
because it is a little slower and a little more wonky than if you build a specific app or in between as a progressive web app.
Yep.
But it feels to me like because I was just playing around with it last night, and it doesn't seem like we are that far um, just for chat,
Yep.
right? Because what needs to happen, the biggest thing I was worried about is this sidebar over here, right? And once you get down to mobile, that sidebar collapses,
Yep.
which is the and then this is the main to me with BrainDrive as it exists right now,
Mhm.
this is the hard thing, right? Is that right there,
Yep.
right? And it's already working.
Yeah, no, no, I have some responsiveness cooked in. It's
Yeah.
the plugin where it's like I did so many changes on chat. It clearly needs a little love to go
Right, but
100%.
but to me, um, you know, uh this is the this is the issue here,
Yeah,
right? Is this top bar, right? And so, just having a little, I don't know, making that a drop down even, you know what I'm saying? Because like right here, let's just
yep. It should start.
if these stacked,
Yep,
you know what I'm saying? Just stacked,
yep,
right? And then they were behind a little settings thing here in the chat plugin. And anytime you wanted to change one of these things, the model, the persona, those are the two main things. But if history's there, great.
yep.
You know, if those things just stacked and were hidden, and then you could just hit a button and they came down, as a V1, that's good enough for
Okay,
mobile because that gets you from 0 to 1, right?
yep,
That gets you from I can't use this on mobile at all to I can use it. It's a little
yep.
wonky, but
Not
like it's
perfect.
it's doable,
Yep.
right? So to me, that would be a big deal, and it seems like also not that heavy of a lift because it's
No.
still all a part of the chat
Yep.
plugin, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think that gets us mobile.
Yeah, no, it does get us to the infancy stages of mobile. It's like, that first step into it because you can the core application behaves like I want it to. It's the plugins that need to say, "Hey," and I'm going with the core didn't behave exactly correct because it shortened up as you went straight mobile. It wasn't as long as it should have been. And so it's just a little responsive twerks and like that, but exactly, especially it's only CSS.
Yeah. And I think even like, again, this isn't the end state that we want, but even if you just have to have a mobile page here for now, that's like, so, if you want to talk to it on the go, like go to your mobile page for now, like as just a stopgap to get it working on mobile, to me, that would be fine.
I think it'll be easier to do it right
Okay, great. Let's do it right
because
then.
that's a lot of functionality to push into a wrong direction.
Fine.
Yep.
All right. So getting it working on desktop, job number one, getting it
Fine tune for mobile.
doable on mobile, responsive is number two. And then we can talk about all the other stuff that we want
Yep.
to do,
And
which
my
is
goal
build.
is to have this done, maybe not the mobile, but the functionality aspect on desktop to throw to you so you can start playing with it with your library and we can start fine tuning on make sure because you have the most expansive library now out of anybody.
Yeah.
So it should be able to kind of either A, only require a minor change for your library because multi-user, your library doesn't account for multi-user, which we need to, in my mind, I always do so that when I get there, I can knock everything down.
Which is
Uh,
another advantage of having your own interface. And, and if you want to go multi-user and use this in your business, you're not
yeah,
going to want people on Discord and Telegram and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yep. Unless that's where you're doing business because you
Yeah.
have these small little game. I mean, roll every
Well,
little.
and you're still going to want, even if you are doing business there, like it was still going to be cool to have the permissioning and all
Yep,
that type of stuff that this is going to allow eventually where you can have, like, I'm already thinking about for us, like, and I know we're not, this is a future thing, but like, I think the library is going to enable this where like there's certain things I want to expose to the public. There's
yep,
certain things I want to expose not to the public, but to you. There's certain things I want to expose to you and Nav.
yep.
There's certain things, so that it feels to me like because we're thinking multi-user from the beginning, it's going to enable all those things in
Yeah,
the future.
especially and I won't go into displaying it, but like your version of the front end that you did for your demo version, it really allows that. That's why I like certain things about what you did because of the fact of yours encounters multiple folders. So it's like you can give functionality to people, and that's all that needs is a backend permission system to go, hey, you can't access that, but you can access this, so
And
you
it's
can.
really easy for people to understand that right out of the
Yep,
box. You know what I mean? Because people already think about who can access this document and folder and everything, where if it's some RAG system or knowledge graph or something, it makes it impossible.
yep, yeah. So
All right. So the other thing I was curious about is you know, we don't need this out of the gate, but one of the things that's really cool about my setup currently is it syncs automatically. Like it's Git enabled basically,
yes, nope, this is already Git enabled. I don't use GitHub's libraries and like that. I use a Python library to handle it.
which is
Um,
good because we want this not GitHub is a point of centralization,
yep,
right? So
yeah,
if this can handle Git in a variety of different ways,
yep.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, and also it allows us then we get into lowering the context window because now we can deal with the difference between files versus always chunking around this huge file. And certain advantages come with using Git functionality like that. But yes, and then the what I would say the next part would be every change we have to have versioning. You need to know what was the difference between yesterday and today, and that Git enables that. So and then what I'd like to see eventually would be I made a change, let's push this up. And always keeping your cloud GitHub where you keep your repo up to date so that when you just, let's say, in my case, my wife said, hey, it's time to go because I'm always running late on everything. And I can just grab my phone and it would be queued in instantly. When it looks up on GitHub, I go, okay, that's up to date and not, oh, I forgot to save that because that is the history of my life with those kind of
Me
functionalities.
too. Yeah. Amazing. All right. Well, and it sounds like we may have something to show next Monday.
That hey, my as I told you, that's my goal. It's like I was walking into this week going, thanks to OpenClaw, I wanted to get that plugin done. And I'll get it live so it's on my repo. So if people want to check out how to do Discord and a chat bot, it'll be there for them. But the next weekend I'm going for, I want to see the basic principles of the library in place, playable by you, me, so that we can start exploring and seeing, hey, this is what's next.
Yeah, and I would just say, for anyone who comes into the community, like it's great if they want to play with that Discord plugin, but like we're all in on getting this library
Yeah,
function
oh yeah,
working
yep.
right now, and like we're going to be heads down on that and not focused on the rest of the system until that's done.
Nope, correct. Nope, this is like that's not even on borrowed time because I have until I get some checks on my list, I have no time to play.
Okay, great. Awesome. Anything else you want to talk about for this week?
No, I think that's it. Oh, let's bring up Nav. Nav is working on BrainDrive code, and we got it. We had a demo of it yesterday, and I gotta say, it was impressively phenomenal. The fact is, Dave gave him instructions on the fly. This is what I want my plugin to do. And no blink, no nothing. Within 5 minutes, maybe it was less than, it was probably three, and it handed him a zip file. Nav installed the zip file as if he was a normal user using a local installer, and the plugin did everything that Dave asked him to do. And as far as for when we talk about you owners who are not power users, you just know what you want. You don't know
All
how to
all
do it.
natural language, no code, no
Exactly.
terminal, just a chat.
Yep. The Nav's code in the background took care of everything you don't know about BrainDrive and coding and like that, and it ends up giving you a plugin that boom, there you go. Have a nice day with this, and you have what you wanted. It handles versioning as we were going over yesterday. So if you don't like a button color, you can get those changed. So we really have. It was one of the things Dave and I were talking about months ago. Of we, in order for this to be really successful, it isn't the fact that you can do plugins, but can we get people who do not know how to code to do plugins? And I said then the model's got to catch up. It's not even close.
Yeah.
We're there now. These
Yeah.
models do it. We just need the guardrails, which Nav is taken care of. And yesterday we had our full walkthrough from point A to point Z, and it was pretty flawless. We just have some minor tweaks to clean this up, but definitely like the direction that that is heading.
Amazing. All right, great. And with that, we'll leave it there. As we talked about at the beginning of the call, our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, live stream on YouTube, and then the recordings are posted over on our community forums at community.braindrive.ai. Those are both open to any and all that like to join us. So we hope to see you there. And with that,